Support for this podcast comes from listeners and St. Alphonsus Health System, a regional network of hospitals, clinics, and care providers. St. Alphonsus offers comprehensive healthcare services to individuals and families throughout the community. More information about services and locations is available at stalphonsus.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector, Idaho Daily News. Happy Friday. It is December 5th. I'm Troy Oppie. This morning, the former clerk and treasurer of the city of New Plymouth will spend 15 months in federal prison. The Idaho Center is officially becoming a College of Western Idaho venue, and how Boise might play a role in next year's FIFA World Cup. But we start this morning with Idaho Fish and Game. The agency is switching things up for non-residents that want to hunt elk and deer in the state next year. Julie Lucchezza reports on how out-of-state hunters will now have to enter a drawing for 2026 deer and elk tags.
Non-resident tags used to be available over the counter or online on a first-come, first-served basis. Idaho Fish and Game's Roger Phillips says people would fly in just to buy them in person and wait in line, with some even camping in front of their offices.
We saw that it was unsustainable. There was also a fairness issue for people who couldn't take the time off to come to Idaho and physically buy a tag or sit in front of their computer for, sometimes 4 to 6 hours.
Last year, Fish and Game sold about 25,000 non-resident tags. Those do not affect local hunting tags, which are unlimited.
The scarcity of other options in other states is what made the demand so high in Idaho.
Any non-resident applying for a license this year also has to pay a non-refundable $200 general hunting license. Those will remain valid for the season and allow hunters who did not get an elk or deer tag to still buy other over-the-counter tags,
which would be bear tags, mountain lion tags, turkey tags, wolf tags, things like that, or go waterfowl or upland hunting.
The application period for the drawing opens today until December 15th. Results will be announced in early January. Julie Lucchezza, Boise State Public Radio News.
The former city clerk and treasurer of New Plymouth will spend 15 months in federal prison, sentenced this week for using city credit cards to make nearly $200,000 in purchases for her personal benefit and making it appear that the purchases were legitimate municipal costs. Danielle Painter worked for New Plymouth between 2014 and 2023. The U.S. Attorney for Idaho says she started the scheme in 2017. Her sentence includes 3 years probation after release, and she must pay restitution for the misused funds. The Idaho inmate who escaped custody during an ambush while on a hospital visit has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder for killings while he was on the run. The Nez Perce County Prosecutor's Office, in a statement released on social media Thursday, says 33-year-old Skylar Mead will serve consecutive life sentences for the killings, and he cannot appeal and will not be eligible for parole. Mead was likely to face the death penalty if convicted for killing 83-year-old Julietta man James Monty and 72-year-old Gerald Henderson of Orofino. The Nez Perce Prosecutor's Office says the plea deal was made in consultation with Clearwater County authorities and the victims' families. Mead was already sentenced to at least 30 years for the escape in Ada County. His co-conspirator, Nicholas Umfenor, pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison for his role in the escape, which included shooting and injuring 2 corrections officers. Separately, Umfenor faces trial in the death of Monty as well and could face the death penalty if convicted. The Ford Idaho Center is officially becoming a College of Western Idaho venue. CWI trustees Thursday voted unanimously to accept a conveyance from the city of Nampa. Idaho Ed News reports CWI President Gordon Jones says the college will now assemble a new advisory committee for the Idaho Center, and it plans to fundraise specifically for the $25 million in deferred maintenance costs that the city of Nampa says it didn't have the money for. Idaho Ed News also reports Nampa officials and CWI began talking about a possible transfer about a year ago. The possibility didn't become public until this past summer. Earlier this week, the Nampa City Council needed a tie-breaking vote from outgoing Mayor Debbie Kling to authorize the transfer of the Idaho Center, a multi-use facility that dates to the late 90s. 2 years after winning a similar lawsuit, the Center for Biological Diversity announced it would sue the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service over the agency's current refusal to develop a national gray wolf recovery plan. The advocacy organization announced this week they'd filed an intent to sue, a 60-day notice required under the Endangered Species Act. The Trump administration reversed course on plans announced under President Joe Biden to create a wolf recovery plan, a guiding document for the country's long-term approach to durable wolf populations in the wild. Last month, the Trump administration published a finding that protecting the gray wolf under the Endangered Species Act is, quote, no longer appropriate, and a recovery plan would not move forward. Wolf populations are currently segmented by region. Northern Rockies wolves recently lost endangered species protection and are managed by states, a decision the center and other advocacy groups are continuing to challenge in court. The 300-mile, 500-megavolt power line planned between Oregon and Idaho may get a new co-owner, sort of. The Oregonian newspaper first reported Oregon energy company Pacific Corp, which owns 55% of the Boardman to Hemingway line, B2H as it's called, wants to sell its share and lease back control for at least 20 years. Idaho Power is the other co-owner of the B2H line, and here's the sort of. Pacific Corp, since 2005, has been a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, a holding company under the umbrella of famed investor Warren Buffett. The buyer of Pacific Corp's share of the B2H line would be a separate subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway Energy called BHE B2H LLC. The ownership change does require approval from the Oregon Public Utilities Commission. Idaho Power says they are full speed ahead with construction on the line in Oregon, even as a few landowners have brought legal challenges to the project. It is expected to be up and running by the end of 2027. And in sports, the FIFA World Cup draw is today. This is when national teams from across the globe find out who they'll play in the group stage of next year's World Cup in North America. Match sites are already locked in across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Exactly when and where teams will play will be announced this coming weekend after the group draw. Boise is on the list to be considered as a base camp. That's where teams will stay and train. Fans will stay as well, as teams could have games in multiple places on the West Coast, Seattle, Vancouver, the Bay Area, or Los Angeles. There are dozens of areas that have applied to be base camp sites. Teams will choose after the draw and schedule is announced, so we should find out next week if Boise will play a direct role in the upcoming World Cup. On the blue turf tonight, Boise State hosts the Mountain West Conference Football Championship. The Broncos facing UNLV for the third straight year in the title game and the fifth time since 2023. The Broncos have won all four of the previous recent matchups and are 4.5-point favorites tonight. Quarterback Maddox Madsen will be back under center after missing more than a month with a leg injury. A win would give the Broncos a sixth and final conference title, with a move to the rebuilt Pac-12 coming next year. Kickoff at 6 o'clock tonight in Albertson Stadium. The broadcast is on the Fox Network. And that's your connector for this Friday morning. I'm Troy Oppie. Thanks for listening. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our digital strategy manager is Lacey Daly. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you back here again on Monday morning.
Looking for another podcast to listen to? Check out The Nature of Idaho from our partner station KISU in Eastern Idaho. Join hosts Peter Pruitt and Dr. Leif Tapanilla as they share fascinating stories from the Gem State's great outdoors, celebrating Idaho's wildlife, landscape, and natural wonders. That's The Nature of Idaho from KISU. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.